Dallas Cowboys beat reporter for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. It is Nick Harris. Good morning, sir.
How are y'all?
I guess it's actually the afternoon, so I kind of messed that up.
Like about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's only by 3 minutes. You know? It's because I didn't answer the first call. That's why it's not morning. So blame it on me.
Okay. Now, I know I'm paraphrasing just a little bit, but essentially you responded to a tweet from yourself yesterday, and your tweet essentially said, "Stupid Nick Harris." Does that sound right? And I think we were all kind of in that boat yesterday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was probably the worst 20 minutes of football that I've seen this team play since I started covering this team. When you factor in all of the flukes and dumb mistakes that they had, the discipline issues, you know, the roughing the punter that should not have been roughing the punter had they been able to see a replay review, and then the Turpin fumble, which was just a hilarious moment for a hilarious player. And, yeah, I mean, there was one mistake after the other, the red zone interception. But, man, credit to this team, heart and fight that they had yesterday to claw back and win that game.
Now, let's talk about the penalty that should not have been called on the punt. Was it staggering to you? Because I was reading the referee's pool report, and they essentially said, again, paraphrasing, we did not have the technology to see the advanced slow motion and zoomed in replays that the TV gets. It feels to me like it should be a no-brainer that the league should have access to all the best angles and replays, does it not?
Yeah, you would think so, and they kind of blamed it on Fox and being like, yeah, we didn't see that enhanced replay from Fox before, you know, the decisions were made, and then the next play happened. So it was interesting to see that in the poll report and just being like, hey, we didn't have that enhanced to look at it until well after it was done. But you know, you wish that, you know, the Cowboys staff had that look as well, because if they had seen that, then they would have, you know, easily been able to throw that challenge flag out there. But Brian Schottenheimer was asked after the game, he's like, look, I believed Ryan, but, you know, we didn't know if they would have a good view of it on the replay, because it's so, you know, incremental to see a finger getting tipped. But, I mean, it proved to be that would have been the case had he challenged it.
Do you have a theory on what's going on with CeeDee Lamb at all? Because there are a lot of great things from yesterday's game, and I want to talk about those, but a lot of people are frustrated about this struggle right now.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Over the last 5 games, he's been targeted 48 times, and he's only hauled in 28 receptions. I haven't quite done the math yet, but I would have to assume that 20 of those targets that have not landed in his hands have to be the most over the course of a 5-game span in his career. Again, I'm just kind of theorizing. I'll do the math later. But my only theory would be, hey, you know, when he was out with that high ankle sprain for 3 games, you know, they really had to figure out how to get George Pickens really involved during that span, and they did so. And they found a lot of things that worked. And, you know, some of those things that worked were things that CD does really well. It was funny hearing Dak talk after the game about, you know, hey, you know, you have 2 guys that are in a really good position to be able to, you know, haul in a big time reception. You need a big play from one of these guys. How do you know which one to go to? And he was like, well, I mean, if George is running a slant, I'll probably go to George, and if CD's running this, I'll probably go to CD. And I was like, man, I call back to 2023, and it feels like CD had almost half of his yards on slants. So it's just like there's some things that I think George Pickens does well, maybe does a little bit better than CD does, but there's still a lot of areas that CD is better than George at. So I think it's more so about finding what those things are, fine-tuning them. And, you know, I also have to kind of look at the coverage that a lot of teams have been playing against these 2 guys. They've been doubling CeeDee Lamb and then throwing their number 1 corners on George Pickens. That's if they travel. The Eagles did not travel yesterday, but you saw a lot of opportunities where CD was doubled, and so a lot more tight window throws that Dak was having to find CD on. I think there's a lot of factors that play into it, but I think that's going to be one of the things they focus on the most here in this short week.
I swear I don't think I'm being a prisoner of just the moment. It feels like the slant route to George Pickens is currently the most undefendable route in all of football.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. When he has that kind of physical talent to be able to run that slant and fight off any contact that comes with it, I mean, yeah, it's almost indefensible. And when you have the hands that he does, my goodness, I mean, that catch that he had yesterday downfield, one of the best catches that I've seen live over Cooper DeJean with, I think it was Reed Blankenship that was slicing over to try to make that play, or Sidney Brown, excuse me. But his body control is unreal. His hands are so sure. It's almost any route he runs, it's going to work out 9 times out of 10.
Sorry, how excited should we all be that Philadelphia Eagles skipped Special Teams Day when it came to when you should field a punt and when you should not, and they decided at the 1.5 yard line was the best place to field a punt?
Yeah, it just felt like Xavier Gibson and Kevontae Turpin wanted to have a game of who can field this deeper and not get in trouble by their special teams coach. And I think both of them lost in that game. Gibson, I'm not sure. Maybe he saw a crease that, none of us saw, but Woodrow Wilson grad, so I don't want to dunk on him too much. He's a Dallas guy. But, it certainly gave Dallas a golden opportunity. They weren't able to cash in, but it certainly helped flip that momentum when it happened in the fourth quarter.
Nick, did the Eagles not watch film on the Cowboys defense the last couple of weeks? Because Dickerson was like, hey, little surprised about those fronts.
Yeah, that's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, the Cowboys have been experimenting with these five-man fronts going all the way back to that Washington win, and they really started to ramp it up right before the bye week against Arizona, and then they add Quinnen Williams, and they ran more five-man fronts last week than they have all season against the Raiders. So it's like, what games were you watching? Because, how could you not expect that from this front, especially when you have three defensive tackle talents? I mean, they could not show it on film. You should still probably expect that they want to try to get those three guys on the field at the same time. That would most likely result in an odd man front. That was bizarre to see after the game.
I'm okay with it, though. If nobody wants to watch film on this team, I'm perfectly fine.
Man, I really hope the Chiefs are flummoxed by that as well. They're like, we had no idea. I know the Dak and the Cowboys are focused on other things, but you pointed out before the game yesterday that the Cowboys would have a live tracker of Dak Prescott's career passing yards. He surpassed Tony Romo, most passing yards in franchise history. Did he take a moment to enjoy that, or was it more focused on the win and the push for the playoffs?
Well, in the moment, he was apparently getting some congratulatory comments on the sideline, and they were down 21-7 at the time. There was some expletives that I'll leave out, but he was basically like, F that, I don't care right now. And, but after the game, he was asked about it, and he was like, yeah, it certainly feels better when a win is attached with it. And he kind of honored the moment and shined some light on Tony and how, he was helpful in the beginning of his career. Overall, it's a much more accomplishing feat when you have a win attached to it, no doubt.
What do you happen to know what the conversation in halftime was? Did Shotty go in there and give a great, inspiring speech? What was that feeling? Because that was a completely different group heading out of that.
Yeah, it wasn't Shotty, and it's funny because the guy that I keep hearing over and over when I talk to guys that were in the locker room was Quinnen Williams, the guy who got here a couple of weeks ago, and it was Wanya Thomas had tweeted out late last night or early this morning, is like, yeah, Quinnen basically came in there and was like, we got to get our S together and, show up, stand up for the moment. DeMarvion Overshown had said that, look, we're trying to set the standard of the best defense in the league. We have to make a stand here. Who are we going to be? And a lot of those defensive conversations really resonated on that side of the ball. Dak Prescott even mentioned, he was like, man, I saw what was going on over there on that side of the locker room. It inspired us. It gave us confidence. And, you saw that confidence on display in the second half, especially from the defensive side of the ball. And, if this team has 5 wins on the season, I think you can finally give the defense one of those 5 after that performance yesterday.
And I promise I'm not trying to be like hot take guy or anything like that, but do you think it would be fair if I was like, it feels like that level of defensive leadership from Quinnen Williams has already equaled or surpassed what we all hoped Micah would be from a strictly leadership perspective?
I will say Micah is kind of a psychopath competitor. So, within the confines of a game, I think, you could probably compare it. But when it comes to the off-the-field impacts that Quinnen Williams has already brought here in a couple of weeks, just talking to people, this is not my theory. It sounds like Quinnen is bringing a lot to these guys in the locker room, and that was definitely something that this team wanted more out of Micah Parsons, prior to his trade.
Yeah, I've been hearing very similar things about the personality. Yeah. And that was something that Jerry told us on Friday, one of the big reasons. They'd done their research on the guy, too. One of the things, Nick, that we were kind of talking about with Mickey last week was the variety of defensive players that have been in on the ball. But I was listening to Schottenheimer in the pregame interview with Brad Sham, and he was pointing out this schedule that they have here and how, maybe I got this guy going in for this percentage of plays, but guys, we got a quick turnaround here. This turnaround here, they've done a pretty good job of making sure they got guys rested heading into Thursday.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're going to be really light on the practice field this week, just a couple of walkthroughs. They have a few guys that are banged up. Kalen Carson was dealing with some cramping yesterday, and then Tyler Guyton has an ankle issue. Looks like it's going to keep him out of the game on Thursday, but we'll know more later today from Schottenheimer. But yeah, they are certainly trying to be cognizant not only of the guys who are returning from injury over the course of the last couple of weeks that got a lot of work yesterday, like Overshone and Revel, but the team as a whole. Because, I mean, not only are you playing this 3-game and 12-day stretch, but you also have really physical teams that you're playing up against in that stretch with the Eagles, Chiefs, Lions. I mean, those are 3 of the most 10 physical teams you'd probably point at in the NFL. So they're trying to be cognizant of that, and that planning, a lot of that planning went into the bye week as well.
How did you feel Nate Thomas did when he came in?
Yeah, I thought he held his own. I think he's looked more natural at left tackle than right tackle this season. It sounds like he's probably going to have to get the start on Thursday against the Chiefs, so that's going to be big, for his progression and his development against that really good front. But yeah, I think with a week of prep, or a short week of prep rather, he'll be ready to attack that game on Thursday. Hopefully so with Connor Riley and Clayton Adams.
Is there any part of you that wants him out there more than the alternative? Because I know Guyton has lots of potential, but it feels like every single game he continues to hit you with a penalty at the worst possible time.
Yeah, at this point in time, I would rather keep Guyton and Steele, both of those guys out there. I think Steele gives you more in the run game. I think he gives you a little bit more consistency than Nate Thomas has proved at the right tackle spot. At left tackle, I'm trying to stick to my guns here, guys. I had a take on Tyler Guyton right before he got drafted. And again, he wasn't with the Cowboys at that point. And I was like, look, this guy has 14 starts in college. He's going to be a guy you look up after a couple of years and you're going to be like, man, and was that worth a first-round pick? But when it comes time to sign that fifth-year option, I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets it just because the development is going to increase and you're going to see that ceiling start to be reached a little bit. I'm trying to stick to that take, although I want to see a little bit more progression week by week from Tyler Guyton, but I'm sticking to the take, and I can't balk on it just yet. I gotta stick with it. But in the spirit of that, I would be keeping Tyler Guyton out there.
Yeah, a couple of cool moments I think we all enjoyed. Osa running out onto the field, waving the 94 Marshawn Nealon flag, and then even Jalix Hunt wearing the My Cause, My Cleats, honoring Marshawn Nealon. It's not like necessarily a question, so I guess I'll round it into how cool is that to see not only the Cowboys, but other teams honoring him as well?
Yeah, super cool. And I was I was surprised by the flag, and that was cool to see with Osa Odighizuwa running out with it before the game, and then Wanye Thomas carrying it to the locker room after the game. And so it was cool to see. And I think with Jalix Hunt, those were 2 guys that grew close to each other during the draft process. They were 2 small school guys. Jalix Hunt was from Houston Christian, Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan, and they were able to kind of connect during the Senior Bowl during the draft process. And so it was cool to see Jalix Hunt honor him in that way. That was a cool moment.
Can you do me a favor if you happen to see Javonte Williams this week? Just give him a hug for that block that he made on that last throw, because that was awesome.
I tell you what, man, that's a physical football player. You talk about these physical teams they got. They're going to need Javonte Williams. He was kind of limping around the locker room yesterday. He took a beating, but sounds like he's going to be, rehabbing and getting ready to go for Thursday.
All right, Barrick Chamber, get in it.
Man, good, because if there's anybody that I believe is just like the toughest human being in the world and makes things where I don't think there's a run lane right there, he continues to just be a phenomenal story this season.
He does. Yeah, he does. And it's a credit to this front office. We do give them a lot of a rightful harping for their bargain bin, searching that they do during free agency. But hey, they found a golden find with this guy in Javonte Williams. Credit to that scouting group, because when free agency was rearing around, that was the guy that they wanted. That was their number 1 target at running back, and we all questioned it, and I did too. And then after a couple of games early in the season, I think this scouting department and this front office, they proved themselves right.
Man, thank you very much for the time and information, as always, good sir.
Yeah, appreciate you, fellas. Anytime. Thank you.